this talk is all about leadership through self-awareness and looking at how you can become a better leader by first understanding yourself, and how in turn you can also help your followers as well and help them understand how they can become leaders as well. Building up our skills to really understand ourselves creates a positive impact to those around us and helps us navigate the world we live in, whether it's in a work environment or your home life with friends, any sort of activity that you're doing. And it can really enable us to be great leaders. So first, a little bit about me. So my name is Melissa Houghton, and I am a lead software engineer and developer relations at Azenix. And I'm also a Microsoft MVP in developer technologies. So I mostly work with .NET application development, and have recently been learning about like Terraform stuff. Was bothering Brendan and all day today on getting some Terraform help. But I like working with all different kinds of tech and speaking about different things as well. And leadership and self-awareness is something that I've learned quite a bit about through doing a whole bunch of different leadership training courses, through work and outside of work as well, and also working on my personal self-awareness and my skills to coincide with that. One of the ways in which I've learned about leadership through self-awareness was actually through a camp that I attended and was a counselor for. And this was a Rotary Youth Leadership Awards camp, which was for young adults aged 18 to 28. And it was all about leadership through self-awareness. So that's actually where I got the original idea for this talk. I'm not trying to retrofit the camp into a talk, but the idea of becoming a better leader by understanding yourself is something that has really stuck with me and I've found very valuable throughout my career. So I thought I'd turn it into this talk and do some extra research to help all of you learn those skills as well. So this is a photo of me as the counselor at the camp with some of the young adults that I was looking out of. And I've done many other leadership training courses through work and different activities that I've done in high school and university as well. And many of them focused on very similar concepts. So how many of you have ever done any sort of like leadership training where, or even just a corporate environment where you had to do some sort of personality test or understanding your behavioral profile or your strengths and weaknesses, some sort of test to get a gauge of those kind of things? Yeah, I see a couple hands. Cool. This is often a part of any sort of corporate leadership training because understanding ourselves and getting a view for that profile of our strengths and weaknesses and things that we're good at and how we interact with others is really important to understanding how we can be better as a leader and as a colleague to our friends. So what is leadership? Leadership has many definitions. In the dictionary, it says it's the action of leading a group of people or an organization. I didn't really find that super helpful, so I looked up the definition of lead. And it told me that lead means it's the initiative in an action, an example for others to follow. And if we put those two things together, we can say that leadership is the action of taking the initiative and setting an example for others to follow. So I like this definition because I see a leader as someone who has followers. Because you can't really force people to follow you. You can't force people to see you as a leader. People will decide if you are leading them or not. It's not just about the person who has lead in their title or is at the top of the ladder, whether it's executive and manager or whatever your title means. It's the people who are at the front, who are influencing, who are motivating their teammates, supporting and enabling others to be the best that they can be. And it can be anyone at any level, with any type of personality, background, or experience. And it could be you. A leader is someone who is pulling the team forward. And with the right skills and attitude, people will naturally follow. So what makes a good leader? I want to hear from people in the crowd with some crowd interaction. What do you think makes a good leader? Yeah?
Someone who can inspire.
Inspire, yes. Anything else?
Approachable.
Approachable, that's good. Yeah.
Someone who can easily relate and empathize with others.
Relate and empathize, yeah. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Can't connect, but
Connect.
sort of like relate.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so connecting, relating, being approachable, empathizing, all these different things are definitely things that make a good leader. A lot of it's about our way we communicate with others and the way we present ourselves to those in front. And people can be leaders in many different contexts. They're the ones that are helping out. The person who's the most approachable might not be the one who is the leader at the front. It could be the guy on the side who's always checking in and making sure that you're doing okay, making sure that the teammates have all the resources they need and the help and support that they need along the way. And there doesn't always have to be one leader either. A lot of times there's many people that are leaders in different parts of the situation. Think about a game of basketball. You have a coach, you have someone who might be setting up the play, and you have the person who is making the assists and someone else who's actually shooting the hoop and scoring the goal. So who is the leader in that situation? They all played their small little part to reach the goal, and each of them were a leader in their own right. And they worked together and supported one another, made sure that they could get to the goal. I think the camera's died, so I can also turn on my my laptop camera if I don't know if it's online anyways, but might see a very close-up view of me, but that's all good. Cool. So I like this quote from Bill Gates. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. So we spoke about inspiring and being approachable. So how do we empower and inspire others? How do we become that person that others want to follow? It all comes down to really understanding ourselves. And before we can take a look at caring for others, we first look at ourselves and our actions and how others receive those. So self-awareness and leadership are not one and the same, but self-awareness is a key foundation for being a good leader. And all of those traits that we mentioned, being approachable, empathetic, being inspiring, being someone that you want to come and talk to, that is supporting you along the way, and really listening to others, first starts with yourself. So what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is when you are, aware of yourself. It's about being aware of your values, your personality, your strengths and your weaknesses, and how you react in different situations, and how others may react to your actions as well. And people are not born completely self-aware, yet research has found that we start developing self-awareness in infancy. And we continue to develop that self-awareness as we grow. However, true self-awareness is rare, and people have differing levels of self-awareness as well. So research has estimated that only 10 to 15% of people are what they call truly self-aware. And the concept of self-awareness has appeared in texts for centuries, and the concept of self pondered by many for ages and ages. However, the official study of self-awareness, as we know it now, began with Shelley Duvall and Robert Wickland in 1972. And they proposed that at a given moment, people can focus attention on their self or an external environment. So that led to two different types of self-awareness. The first is your internal or your private self-awareness. And this is how well you know yourself, looking on your inside, looking at your emotions and your actions. And generally, we're not super focused on ourselves. We have to really think about it and bring our attention inwards. So take a moment now to think about how you're breathing in and out. Usually we just breathe without thinking about it, but because I brought your attention to it and mentioned it, you are now self-aware of how you are breathing. So this type happens when you become aware of some sort of aspect of yourself, but in an internal and private way. So you're thinking about it in your mind and you're aware of your internal state and actions. For example, when you see yourself in the mirror, or when I just saw myself with my camera turned on, then that's me being self-aware of how you look or how I look, and suddenly thinking of your breathing. And then the other side of it is our external self-awareness. So this is the public self-awareness and how our awareness of how we are perceived by others. So it's often stated as an imagined perspective because we never really know 100% for certain how we're perceived by others. But often we have an internal sort of thought of how people are perceiving us. So that is our external self-awareness. So right now, as I'm giving this presentation, I'm aware that I'm of my body movements and that I'm looking at my notes probably more than I should be. And I'm thinking about and aware of how I think you're seeing me, basically. But I'm not 100% certain what your thoughts are. So it's still a self-awareness, but it's an external self-awareness. When we believe that we are being watched and evaluated, we often try to behave in a specific way that we think is socially acceptable or desirable. Think about a situation you might be in with your friends where maybe a joke is told or something happens and you kind of wait to see how your friends react before you react because you want to make sure that you fit in with the group and that you are part of the social norms. So that is part of being your external self-awareness, is guiding your actions based on how you think others might perceive you. So internal self-awareness tends to result in behavior that reflects your personal values, whereas external self-awareness can cause behavior to become more consistent with that of societal expectations or the values of those around you. So Dr. Tasha Urich continued to do this research on self-awareness in the concepts specifically of leaders, and found that these two types of self-awareness create these 4 self-awareness archetypes. So in the bottom left corner, we have seekers who have low internal and low external self-awareness. So they're not very self-aware. They don't know too much about themselves just yet, but they might be seeking information. However, they often will feel frustrated or stuck because they're unaware of what they're supposed to be doing and maybe out of touch with their personal values and their self. And then we have in the top left, the introspectors. These are the ones who have high internal and low external. So they're really aware of who they are and what they value, but they often are closed-minded and they might not be as aware to their surroundings. And this can harm or limit their relationships and sometimes their success as well. And then in the bottom right corner, we have pleasers. These people have low internal but high external. So they're very focused on making sure everyone else around them is happy and accepts them, but they're not as true to who they are and might not be aware of what their personal values are, so are very well influenced by those around them. So they might end up overlooking things that are personally important to them. And then in the top, we have those that are truly self-aware. So we said this is only 10 to 15% of people really sit in that very top corner. And those have both high internal and high external. They know who they are and are continuously seeking feedback and have an open mind. And building self-awareness and the levels of internal and external that you may have can really vary across the scale. It's not just clear cut in a box, it's all sort of sliding up and down and all around. But it's something that we can continue to build and we should continue to work on and make sure that we work on both sides of the internal and the external self-awareness. Because if we don't, there can be negatives. As we highlighted on the last slide, if we don't build both sides of our self-awareness correctly, it can have negative effects. So focusing too much internally on ourselves can make us self-absorbed and not be open-minded to new concepts or new ideas. And then it can also lead us to being distressed, because if we're on the outside, focused outside all the time, we might be excessively self-conscious and always very aware of what people are thinking and very worried about all of our actions, and that can hold us back and make us anxious in different scenarios. So there's an element of vulnerability and a negative focus that can come with that self-awareness. So people who are externally self-aware, concerned about others judging their actions, this can lead to evaluation anxiety. And it's something that's called the sadder but wiser paradox. That is, the more we know about ourselves, it not only makes us wiser, but it can also make us sadder. So how do we change this view so that we're not mulling over the negative emotions or maybe the negative views that people are having on us, and instead reflecting objectively, looking at the positives and how we can keep our mind open and continuously learning from the things around us? It's all about asking the right questions. And to understand ourselves and our surroundings, asking questions and having introspection does not necessarily just equal happiness on its alone or success. And depending on what questions you're asking, it can actually make things worse. Research has found that we are mentally not able to pull up all of our unconscious thoughts, feelings, and emotions, because so much is hidden from our view of what we're thinking and how we're feeling. We might often create excuses and form conclusions, especially if we're looking at that external self-awareness and what we think other people are thinking. We might form conclusions that are not necessarily true and put us into a bad mindset. So we need to focus on moving forward instead of fixating on what happened, and change the reflective questions that we have. So instead of asking why did this happen, why me, you can change it to what? What can I do to improve? Go from why is this happening to what can I do to make it better? From why am I so upset to what makes me happy? Change your questions to be focused around what, not why. Focus on becoming the aware archetype, building both the internal and external self-awareness, looking at what you are doing, what you're feeling, and where your blind spots may be, focusing on learnings and improvements and ways to move forward, and getting validation from those around you so that you understand your internal and external self-awareness. One way to get a view of where you sit on the scale is using a tool called the Johari window. So this is designed to really understand yourself and your relationship with others. So in this exercise, two people are given a list of adjectives such as cheerful, observant, outgoing, all these different things. One person will fill it out in reflection for themselves, and the other person will fill it out in reflection of the first person. And then what you do is you line up the two lists and you compare them. The ones that you both circled, so you both highlighted, are part of your external self. So it's known to you and it's known to others. People can see that maybe you're a generally outgoing person. Things that you highlighted, but they didn't, that's part of your internal self. So it's something that you know to be true about yourself, but maybe you don't always expose to those around you. Things that were highlighted by the other person, but not highlighted by you, are often called your blind spots. So this might be part of your external self and how other people see you that you're not fully aware of. And then things that weren't highlighted is called your unconscious self. There's a lot of research that goes into just this activity alone. So I definitely look it up, but it's a really good tool to help get a view of the areas that people are aware of and where to work on, and how that can match up in our reflection and our growth. And also help us to change those questions to what questions, because changing those questions can help us get the positive outcomes of self-awareness. An increased understanding of our self-development needs and maybe areas that we need to work on, or things that we might be hiding from the world around us that really we should be sharing with the world. Higher levels of confidence and creativity, an open mindset, and the ability to adapt. Acceptance of our understanding of ourselves means that we are generally more accepting of those around us, which in turn makes us more proactive at work, more willing to take on the initiative, and better understanding of other people on our team who might be having troubles with a situation or need help, or just approaching problems from a different mindset. It helps us to make better decisions, build stronger relationships, and have more effective communication. Research has found that self-awareness is the most important capabilities for leaders to develop, and can create more successful and satisfied employees and colleagues, more profitable organizations all up, and in general, just more effective leaders. So how can we continue to dive into our self-awareness and our skills as a leader? Well, we can go in to do some research on our different personality types and our leadership skills and how we approach problems. Personality is all about your genetics, but your environment and your situations and how you naturally interact with people and decide to do things, your natural tendencies. Is a characteristic of patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And there's different methods to gain further understanding of your personality type. And a lot of these, when you do them, are influenced by your mood or the situation in which you take the personality test. So it can be different. And some people actually have different personalities in a work context versus a home context. And that's okay. It's when you're doing a personality test, think about, do you want to understand how you are at work or how you are at home, and take the test with that mindset. They're also not 100% correct, but they really give a good guideline and provide insights on how you can operate, generally focusing on your strengths and weaknesses, and again, helping you to gain that understanding of yourself. And if you compare it with your teammates, you can get an understanding of their personality and how it might differ to yours, which will help you in turn understand them a bit better and help guide you towards personal and professional success. So one of the personality assessments that I've done in the past in an organization is called the DISC theory. And this provides personality through 4 central traits. So you either sit more on the dominant side, so you like to you're being more direct and you really like those results outcome, you're firm, you're strong. And then if you go over to the I, you have the influence. So here you're more outgoing and enthusiastic, but you like to use charm to deal with obstacles. If you're on the steadiness side, you're a bit more warm and voluntary acceptance of needs to fulfill a request, a bit more even-tempered and maybe tactful. And then conscientious, here you're a bit more analytical and you're a bit more fearful adjustment to severe forces. So when you do a DISC profile, it'll show you where you sit on the scale in the circle. So you might be, D and then a little bit of S, or like I and a little bit of C. So you're usually like a combination of multiple ones. But it helps give you an idea of how you approach situations. And this one's generally focused on a work context and how you might approach conflicts at work, or when you're reaching, some sort of deadline and things are going wrong, basically how you like to deal in that situation. And I find it really helpful. So when I did this personality test, there was a colleague that I was working with that we were constantly butting heads on absolutely everything. And I found it really difficult to work with her in general. And I found out that she was the exact opposite on the scale of where I am. I'm kind of like on the S and I side of things, and she was on the D and C. And so she always liked to be super direct and a bit forceful with everything. And that, made me a bit more sort of taken aback. And I didn't know how to approach her until we shared our test results and I understood a bit more of how she approaches problems. And so then I was a bit more, forgiving when I felt she was being too direct or forceful, because I just understood that that is her way of doing things. So these tests are really good to help you get that perspective of people around you and also understand how you can approach people in a different problem, in a different situation. Change your communication style or the way you work with them to really even out and match their personalities. There's also many different types of leadership styles. So not everyone is a leader in the same exact way. Like I was talking about, anyone can be a leader, no matter what type of person or personality type you are. So different personality types, all of them can be great leaders, just means you're a leader in a slightly different way. And similar, there's different leadership styles. And all of the leadership styles, they can be altered and changed, whereas your personality type is generally your personality. You can't really change it too much. So one theory that's commonly referred to is the full range leadership model, but it has 3 distinct leadership styles, but one of them is split into two subcategories. That's why you see 4 on the screen. But the first is the laissez-faire. This is the type of leader that's the least active, and they give all of the power to their followers. They empower everyone who's following them to make all the decisions, and they give them complete freedom to do all the work, to make decisions about the work. And it can be effective if you have a team that's highly experienced and really trustworthy and really good at taking the initiative and making good decisions. But if you have a team that needs a bit more guidance, then being a laissez-faire leader might not be the best in that scenario. Transactional leadership is more about motivating through a system of rewards and punishments when things go wrong, but generally by rewards, giving people bonuses or anything like that. So the management by exception subcategory means that the management steps in when the team is not meeting standards, but otherwise, just kind of lets them go through and gives them the rewards and punishment. The contingent award is about an active exchange between the leaders and followers, where the followers are recognized for accomplishing the objectives. So the transactional leader is usually focused on standardizing practices, and this can help an organization that needs those practices standardized and really help in that organizational development as it's going through a growth process. And then the top one is transformational. So this is really about fully motivating your team, and is proven to be the most effective within the most organizations that are out there. With the modern workforce, we often yearn for that more humanitarian approach. We're talking about wanting people to be able to approach our leaders and wanting to feel like we can talk to them and all of that. So the transformational leader is defined as someone who has behaviors that goes beyond exchanging inducements for desired performance and inspiring followers to transcend their own self-interest for a higher collective purpose, mission, or vision. So it's really about inspiring for us all to work together to reach that goal. So transformational leaders are often seen as visionaries and role models to drive the organization. So the different leadership styles can work in different areas, and you can develop these. And it also depends on the team that you're working with. But it's good to get an understanding of where you sit on the leadership style scale as well. So we talked a lot about how the leaders it's important that they can communicate with their team. So communication is a very important skill for you to have and understand how you communicate to be a really good leader. Internal communications in an organization can significantly increase the employees' productivity and their engagement. And especially now that we're mostly in this hybrid working environment, communication is super key, and making sure that people that are there face-to-face get the same news and updates as those that are distributed across different areas or at home. So there's the famous 7-38-55 rule in communication that was created by Professor Albert Mehrabian in 1971. So a meaning of a message is 70% verbal, 38% tone and expression, and 55% body language. So there's a debate on the specifics, yet research agree that about 70 to 90% of communication is nonverbal. So that's why, when we're doing these hybrid work engagements, it's important to try and make sure that we have some sort of video feed so that people can see the presenter or see someone giving out the information. If you're a leader and you're delivering a message to your team, try and mix up the mediums that you're using. Maybe instead of sending an email, record a video message, jump on a call, try to get the team all together in person in one place if you can. But it basically means that, we're using those emojis and GIFs and Slack reactions a whole lot more to show our nonverbal communication and show things like how we're excited or how happy we are about a situation, or really support our team around us. So communication can also come in many forms and styles, and understanding how you like to communicate best is really essential for how you are as a leader, and understanding how your team communicates and how you can communicate together is really good as well. Are you somebody who likes to have all of the details before a meeting? Or is someone on your team like that? Or do you prefer just a short summary or a quick chat off to the side? If you understand and establish those communication styles early on, it can make you more effective as a leader and a team member. Understand, who wants to be sent all the packs afterwards and who never wants to see the pack again after the meeting. By acquiring strong communication skills, you can connect better with your friends, your colleagues, and your own leaders as well. So the next leadership skill and self-awareness attribute that I think is really important for leadership is emotional intelligence. Sometimes it's also called EQ, but the first thing that is essential for any sort of degree of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. So self-awareness is like a subsection of emotional intelligence. And people with a high degree of self-awareness really have a solid understanding of their own emotions, especially in a situation where emotion might be triggered. So if there's some sort of conflict or something is outside of their norm or what makes them happy, understanding how you might react in a negative situation and being able to control that is all driven around your emotional intelligence. And that's part of that self-awareness and, how you are interacting with your team members as well. So it's really the ability to recognize your emotions, understand what they're telling you, and realize how your emotions and how you act based on your emotions might affect the people around you. So it involves your perception of others, because it's understanding how they might feel based on your actions. And it also allows you to manage relationships more effectively. And when looking at emotional intelligence, there are 4 components to it. So I said self-awareness was a component. So that's what's called your emotional self-awareness. So just being aware of your emotions and sort of recognizing them as they're happening. But then there's also self-management. So that's being able to then control your emotions. So sometimes you know that you're experiencing an emotion, anger, fear, annoyance, whatever it may be, but you're not controlling yourself from showing that out publicly. But once you develop that self-management, self-control, it's also about being able to adapt in situations and being able to control those emotions and having a switch of mindset to looking on the positive side. It's also about awareness of people around you, so building up that empathy and how an organization might be impacted by certain situations. And also looking at how that then in turn influences your relationships. So looking at how you can build those relationships using emotional intelligence as a coach or a mentor, how you can really build that team, dealing with conflicts, and trying to be an inspiring leader. So when I have some notes that are like not related to the slide. So one of my notes is talking about empathy. So empathy is, on here it's really important, but empathy can actually be broken into 3 parts. And it's important to understand those 3 parts so that we can really be empathetic on a deeper level. So the first is cognitive. So I know how you think. The next is emotional. I know how you feel. And empathetic concern is really, I care about you. So to be truly empathetic, it's all of those 3 parts. So a lot of times I've found myself in a situation where I'm upset and people are like, oh, I know how you feel, blah, 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 but you don't actually feel that they're concerned, or you don't get that empathy. You know, they're saying like, oh, I know how you feel, or they think they know what you're talking about. And you're like, you don't know what I mean, you know, and it's, when someone's truly empathetic, they're able to address all three of those things. So they're able to be understanding of how you think, understanding of how you feel, but also show that care for someone as well. So that really helps in that relationship management and managing of our emotions in others and ourselves, becoming a diffuser, lifting up the team when they might be down or things are going wrong, and harnessing emotions, both good and bad. So when the team's excited, or maybe you have some really excited people on this side, people are less excited on that side, you know, getting them together and working together to support each other to make sure that the good vibes are throughout, and managing the situations so that everyone is supported and working together to achieve their goals. So although in the past, an effective leader was one who gave orders and controlled the performance of an organization, nowadays it's a bit different. People, like we said, want to be a bit more humanitarian. So that emotional intelligence is more important than ever. We're going through difficult times. People's, you know, are having a lot more family situations, kids are at home, family are sick, whatnot. And we need to show that emotional intelligence in support of our team around them to make sure that everyone is working to the best and that they're supported in any way possible. People want leaders who are empathetic and understanding and flexible in different situations, ensuring that we get that good work-life balance and understanding how we can manage our energy so that we're not expending energy in the wrong places. There's a study done in the US by the Center for Creative Leadership that found that the three main reasons for executive failure are difficulty in handling change, inability to work well in a team, and poor interpersonal relationships. So people with high emotional intelligence are curious. They want to learn more, and they're not afraid to ask those questions. They're able to empathize with those around them, put themselves in the shoes and diffuse any situations, make those strong connections, and become great leaders. They're usually great at handling change. They're usually really great teammates and leaders, and they have strong relationships. So if you grow your emotional intelligence, especially if you're a leader, or even if you're a teammate and you help those along the way, you can make sure that your team is successful. So how can you increase your emotional intelligence? Well, one of the ways you can do is really to just observe yourself and understand how you react in different situations. Reflect on reactions that may have turned out poorly, where you did something that was emotionally driven. Think about what triggered that emotion and what made you react that way. And think about how you might have reacted differently that would have turned the situation out better. And then practice putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Let's say, for example, a team member is upset because someone made comments about their work, maybe they performed poorly, and but the feedback wasn't given in a very good way. You might think, you know, that wasn't really a big deal. Why are they upset? But if you wouldn't go up to the person and say, man, why are you upset? Like, that wasn't that bad. They'll probably be taken aback. So you want to put yourself in their shoes and understand, you know, people's definitions of hard and what's upsetting for them is different. So you're not always going to understand, but you can still be there to support them and try your best to understand and have an open mind and be that caring person that can help them get through the situation. Acknowledging that your emotions help you to understand the emotions of others and what emotions they may be feeling. Understanding that they might be reacting in the situation not because of the comment, but maybe, you know, these other things that happened in the background as well. Because we all have a lot of different things going on in our lives, not just the thing in the present time. Similarly, before you send out an angry email or react negatively to a situation, take a step back and reflect and really revisit with a new mindset. Try and wait until your emotions have calmed down and practice thinking about what emotions you're feeling in different scenarios and how recognizing, you know, things that might be trigger for you or things that might react in negative ways, and really help manage your emotions in future situations. And all of this is grounded in the ability of having self-awareness and understanding yourself and your actions. So the next thing is all about what's called self-leadership. So it's defined as the process of influencing yourself to achieve your goals. So not all people at the top or people who have leader in their title you can really rely on to lead you. You might have a leader that is set up who's supposed to be, helping you reach your goal. They, like I said, anyone at any one level can step up and be that leader. And part of that is guiding yourself. So how do I reach my goal? How do I continue to move better? And you can influence yourself and build your self-leadership by looking at 3 strategies. First, looking at your own behaviors with that self-observation, setting some goals for yourself and challenges and things you want to achieve, but also looking at different cues of how people are reacting in different situations, and maybe try and pick up on little idiosyncrasies that you have of yourself. But also look at natural rewards for yourself. Build pleasure in the things that you do. Find things that you're passionate about and drive goals towards things that you really enjoy doing, because you'll naturally get that reward from it, and it'll become an enjoyable feature in your task. So if you put your goals towards things that you are really interested in, you'll get that natural reward. And then constructive thought patterns as well. Evaluate your beliefs and assumptions, but practice your evaluation and your self-talk in a positive way, changing those questions to focus around the what and the what makes me happy, what makes me go, what can I do better, what can I do to improve, rather than looking at the, why is this going wrong? Why am I so bad or whatnot? Turn it into a positive. Think about the positive things and the steps you're taking as you grow. Turn those negative thoughts into positive ones will really help you to be the best leader that you can be. And so taken together, these 3 strategies really help individuals gain an awareness over their beliefs and behaviors, and motivates them to reach their goals. And they end up being leaders of themselves, and that'll flow on to those people that are naturally following them. And it means that we'll gain followers. Followers will see this positive mindset and this goal setting and the role model that you have become by doing these things, and you can become a self-leader. So there's also a skill called self-efficacy, which refers to an individual's belief in their capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance. And it reflects confidence and the ability to exert control over your emotions. It's your belief in your ability to succeed. So this skill is really important for motivation and resilience, and being able to take on any sort of challenging problems or things that can go wrong. And studies have shown that when an individual feels confident that they can lead, it positively impacts other people's evaluations of that leader and their individual capability to lead as well. So developing self-efficacy through experiences and seeing those around you, support from your mentors or your colleagues or whoever you have, and maybe even persuasion from others can help you manage those psychological responses and will make you more confident, stronger leader. And this in turn really benefits your followers and those around you. The followers are the ones who have made us leaders in the first place. So you said at the beginning, you're not quite a leader unless you have someone following you. So they're the ones that see us as role models. They're modeling our behavior, and they're using our success as their motivation for how they can succeed. They're seeing us develop and show off these skills, and in turn, we can help them learn it and they can grow it as well. We can share our knowledge and help encourage the team to reflect, coaching them rather than giving them answers, helping them get to the root of the problem and think in a positive way. I had a manager who would pretty much answer every single question I had with another question. So he never gave me the answer. I'd always say like, oh, I should apply to this leadership camp. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know, should I do it? And he's like, what do you think? And he would just kind of keep going. He would never actually give me an answer. So he forced me to do that self-reflection and get to the bottom of it and make the decision for myself, be my self-leader to motivate me to get to that goal. So it really helped with that introspection, and it's, you know, definitely a good tactic. So there's a study that was published just about a year ago that really outlined that if your leader has strong self-awareness, leadership, self-efficacy, then that leads to leader emergence. So people on their team becoming leaders as well. So these are other people around them are being guided by the leader's self-awareness, the self-leadership, and the self-efficacy, and becoming self-leaders. So there's a higher proportion of people on their teams becoming leaders themselves, and also a higher proportion of people who nominated themselves for promotion, who had that confidence to say, hey, I'm ready for the next level, and put themselves out there as someone that can move up in the tier to be a leader themselves. So having strong self-awareness as a leader helps your followers build their self-awareness and makes them more likely to become leaders too. And overall, for an organization, workers are more trusting of self-aware leaders. They become more inspired and more motivated. They build up those external relationships better with clients and colleagues and customers. And people in self-awareness and teammates who are self-aware will make more of an impact and be more engaged with their work and all around producing better results. So we can build self-awareness first by working to understand ourselves, by maybe doing some reflection and using different tools to understand our strengths and weaknesses and our different ways that we like to approach problems and our natural tendencies. We can make sure that we focus both on the internal and external and build up to try and be truly self-aware, make sure we're not focusing too much on one way or the other, and really looking to the people around us. There are things called self-awareness triggers, which are big events in your life that can really help you to develop self-awareness. But these are only triggers when they're supplemented by that positive reflection. So it could be a really a big step that you've taken in your life. Maybe you moved to the other side of the world, maybe you took a trip by yourself, or maybe something tragic happened, or maybe you had some sort of life-changing experience. And the important thing is that after you've had any sort of experience, really, you take that moment to reflect and ask yourself those what, not why questions. And do those tests and practice mindfulness, build up your emotional intelligence and your communication. Take notes, take a step back, slow down when the emotions boil, and practice that self-regulation. So in summary, we've learned about leadership and how that anyone can be a leader. It's not about the title, it's about those who follow you and how you can inspire those around you. We've learned what self-awareness is and how it can be negative if we don't work on it in the correct way, but it can also be very positive. We can work on fixating on the what questions and the positives and how we can move forward. We've learned about different leadership skills, styles, and emotional intelligence, and how all of the positives of these are underpinned by self-awareness, and how self-awareness can be beneficial for ourselves, our team, and our organization. So leadership through self-awareness can make you a good leader. And I'll leave you with this quote. Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, at the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are and you know what you want. So thank you.